And that sound means we are live here on YouTube. It is Tackle Trading's halftime report. Coach Tim, Coach Matt, and Mark. Coach Mark and Cody's here as well. We've got a full crew for you on a Friday fun day. Matt, markets they're mixed. I mean, there's some information going on out there. In fact, the market's kind of stuck right now, waiting for the whole day to kind of fade through. And that's kind of normal on a summer afternoon, on a Friday afternoon, as the market's trying to figure out where it's going to go. First off, how are you doing today, Matt?
Tim, doing really good. Excited to be here for it, hanging out with the crew, and I'm excited to have the first scouting report meeting for me in the last 2 weeks. So I'm excited for that too.
It's always good to have you in that meeting. And Mark, come on in here for just a minute. I'm going to gauge Mark's attitude right now. I'm going to say, Mark, how you doing today?
I forgot that you did this stupid Friday fun day stuff. I'm regretting my decision to join my brother already.
Oh, so Mark's joining us.
He's like, no fun. No
but
fun.
You have a purpose. You have a purpose here today, which is to promote our commodity report, which you're going to be doing this weekend. I know you've got some real great ideas. We'll be talking commodity analysis when we get to that point here. Let's start with the broad market, though, here. And Broadcom, no pun intended on the broad market, is probably the number one stock we need to talk about here today, Matt. AVGO, if you would, then back to ES real quick. Obviously, earnings season is not generally going to be the month of June for most companies, but Broadcom has their earnings in June. They're a June, September, December, March cycle as they go every 3 months. Not a good report. In fact, the headlines were pretty dire. I don't think they were as bad as it sounded, but I think maybe these news outlets didn't have much to talk about today, so they made one company out to be the villain here. What was your read on Broadcom?
I actually took it as a little bit more negative than you did.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm looking at the numbers, I mean, the expectation was supposed to be 5.18. They actually came in at 5.21 on the earnings per share. So the slight beat on earnings per share, but a miss on revenue came in at 5.5 billion versus 5.7 billion expectation. But that wasn't the issue, Tim. They downgraded their guidance. And when you see a company like Broadcom, one of the major semiconductor companies out there, downgrading guidance, and their chief concern about downgrading guidance was the geopolitical concerns and the trade wars with China. And this is on the back of 500 publicly traded companies this week writing a letter to President Trump talking about how these tariffs are going to have a negative impact on the GDP of America, and it's going to impact their sales, and it's going to impact inflation, it's going to impact consumers, and everything we've talked about was how tariffs have a true economic impact. So I actually took it a little bit more negative. I get that it was kind of close, but when you downgrade guidance and when you cite those geopolitical concerns, when the entire market is literally fed up with these trade wars and tariffs and the uncertainty that happens out of the White House. So I actually took it as a slight degree of negative. Obviously, Broadcom down 6.52% today. The question I want to ask you guys is, how would you read that gap?
Well, I think it's probably going, it's holding. So I'm seeing it as playing defense. It's not a runaway gap. It's not a catastrophic gap. I think it's probably just a normal gap map. I don't think that 6.5% for a stock like Broadcom is out of the question. I don't know what the MMM projection was yesterday because I didn't play an earnings play on this one, but I know the stock pretty well. I mean, last time it gapped out about 4 or 5%. I think it's a pretty normal gap, just a regular earnings gap.
Yeah, but there's no play there, though.
I don't think so.
None. There's no play there. There's not a buy signal. There's not a sell signal. This is kind of a stay away. If you're looking at ranking Broadcom, you're probably saying neutrality right now until we see, what happens at 250 or what we see at 290. So as long as it stays between 250 and 290, you're going to see some degree of neutrality. This is a stock that can fly.
That's a terrible trading chart.
It's terrible. I mean,
it's a terrible from just a trading standpoint. It's a terrible trading chart.
Well, I mean, when you look at Broadcom on the weekly chart, I mean, you're seeing a lot of volatility, downside snapback. I mean, it's just there's nothing to see there. I mean, when you're trading, you don't have to trade something. Go find something else.
Mm-hmm. Mark, Broadcom in general, though, as a chip maker, if it's not tradable, it still is information about the other chip stocks in the market. In fact, as I'm looking at the heat map, Mark, many stocks out there are taking it on the chin in chip makers. Do you think that's a sign for other companies like the Microns and the AMDs of the world? How were you reading that earnings reaction?
Semiconductors is fascinating right now. AMD, I love the pullback here. I love the pullback because semiconductors have gotten killed this week. And when an industry gets hit hard, it takes everybody with it. So I love opportunities when an industry gets hit hard. Like, who were the guys and gals doing great before the bloodbath started in that industry this week? AMD had been showing a lot of strength. Like, I look at a chart and I look at a situation, I'm like, is it AMD's fault that it is sliding this week, or is it semiconductors taking AMD with it?
Mm-hmm.
And I side with the latter on it.
It's the latter. I mean, that's what's happening here. And, I saw the Broadcom.
It's opportunity.
Yeah, I saw the Broadcom news, and I immediately thought, okay, AMD at 30. That's what I immediately thought. And Tim, what did I say about AMD earlier this week?
Yeah, I know. And
On Monday, what did I say?
Wait for it to come back to 30. Yep.
And where did it ding today?
It dinged 30. Yeah.
Now you don't buy on the negative news as it's coming down in price. You wait for that doji slowing momentum candle. You wait for the upward movement in price. And I've talked a lot this week about pivot relationships. And when you have a stock coming down, you got a lot of momentum on the downside. There's no guarantee 30 holds here. You got momentum to the downside. This is what I call the support bounce candle. The next candle over here would be the pivot candle, and then the third candle would be that upward movement in price. And so you're in the beginning of this nice little pivot formation, but you have momentum to the downside on negative news. Keep an eye on AMD. It just needs a doji, but I like what I'm seeing on AMD, and I agree with what Mark said. When you see, Broadcom come out and announce, negative earnings, and you see this kind of getting hit, and then when you're looking at the semiconductor index, and it basically looks exactly like Broadcom. I mean, literally, the chart looks exactly like Broadcom. And you go look at the other chip manufacturers like Micron here, bearish downtrend, clip and support. When you look at Intel, INTC, when you look at Intel here, bearish downtrend, bearish retracement, confirmation on the downside. And then I come back to AMD here, and I'm like, bullish uptrend, sitting at a pivot point. And Broadcom's concerns about geopolitical activity and Broadcom's, miss on their earnings, doesn't change the fact that AMD just signed a deal with Google, it just signed a deal with, Microsoft. It doesn't change those relationships. So I like this, what I'm looking at on AMD right here.
Mm-hmm. Other things that really stand out to me, Matt, as I'm looking through the 1 day performance on the market, obviously chip makers are down, communication companies are down, Qualcomm, Cisco, those types, but oil and gas companies are down big time as well too. On the S&P, Schlumberger, SLB, Halliburton, BHGE, many companies that have been on our report. And it doesn't look like much down there because for the week, you've got green, red, but that's down 3% here heading into a Friday. Halliburton down about 2%. A lot of this is due to oil. I'm also seeing, give me a chart on Allergen, AGN. I'm going to show you this where heat maps are so nice because this one's standing red right in the healthcare sector. AGN, not ALGN, AGN, sorry. No, just one A, one G, one N, sorry. I'm throwing a lot of letters out there, I know. Breaking down below support on weakness here, Matt. Drug manufacturer, generic drug company. When you see that kind of breakdown in a sector that's neutral that day, what's your read?
My read's very simple, Tim. Here it is right here. Where's your good old
AGN is on there.
Yeah, I have it somewhere here. It's on the bear side. Can't find it right now. There's a lot of picks we have to go through later today. AMD, there's a bull pick right there. We'll talk about that later. But my read is, that's a clean break of 120 with nothing to the left of the chart. That's a very good bearish breakdown out of 120. There's nothing left on the weekly chart. If we kind of pull this back out in time frame, let's see if we have anything to compete with.
That would be a no.
That would be a no. Look at this from here, guys. From that point, there's nothing until $91. Nothing. There's nothing. There's not a support. It doesn't mean it can't snap back, but doesn't every probability stay downward from here?
Yeah, it does. You've got momentum.
I love these situations. I actually look for the snapback. Like, I love it when a stock snaps back in this situation.
Oh no, give it back to 120. You're right, right?
I love a snapback, and then I love getting.
Yeah, you might not get it. That's a bloodbath there, right there.
That's the risk always.
Yeah.
Quick peek at NOV as well. This was a stock report pick from the past week. You know, many times when something goes on the stock report, I think it's just because it's a lower price stock and we don't need it on the options report, Matt. We have a mix of both of them in there.
Well,
This one's
liquidity
optionable though.
options.
Yeah.
I mean, the two things that separate stock versus options, price, number one, that we take that into account, no doubt. But liquidity on the options. A lot of times when you see stocks on the stock report, you check the liquidity. I know a lot of people trade options on those on the stock report too, but just double check the liquidity.
Mm-hmm. That's trigger confirmation right there on a Friday heading into the weekend, Matt.
Right.
That's a huge breakdown, obviously, with not as much volume yet today, but you always got to remember we're only halfway through the day. The volume will keep coming in throughout the day. Interesting markets.
Yeah, you're already close to average, though. I mean, you're going to be up here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mostly mixed market on the S&P. Some of the bullish companies that are actually looking pretty good. Give me CF, if you would, real quick. Kind of pressing up against a resistance. Agricultural chemical company. Mark, you're a commodities report guy. You track the commodities market. What's going on with chemicals this year?
I'm not, well, you got to separate. You always have to separate like Mosaic and CF, agricultural chemical companies. They're separate industry. Like, you know, you have a lot of chemical companies, but within the chemical space, it's just like technology. Like you can say, well, there's a lot of tech companies. Well, obviously people do a wide variety of things within the tech space. Agriculture companies, like if you put up Mosaic, CF, good old potash, like agricultural chemicals will have their own trend, their own situation, their own market dynamics that weigh on them. I'm not up to date on what the last couple days move is. But that's a nice broad range with a clear area of support. So just from a technical standpoint, we got a very clear resistance level that we can base our trading decisions off of.
Yeah,
that resistance level is pretty strong too. When you're talking right about 45, 46, old pivot relationship over here, top of the channel over here, that's a W type formation. I mean, if we get confirmation, we get a close above that 46 handle. That's a good reversal pattern.
Reversal characteristics, there's no doubt. Look at CarMax, if you would. KMX hitting into a new high. I don't know if it's an all-time high. I believe it would be, but
that's good old-fashioned tackle 25 stock right there, buddy.
Yeah, sure is. Really good fundamentals, good covered call candidate, liquid, tradable, hitting into new highs. So there is some strength in the market, guys. And by the way, if you're out there watching
there wasn't strength in the market though. I had as many bullish picks, if not more bullish picks on the scout report than I did bearish. I think I have about 50 to 60 picks we're going to review, just mine. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to bet 35 to 25, 35 bull, 25 bear.
Yeah.
I mean, the bears are solid, don't get me wrong, but I mean, who's saying this market isn't still a stock picker's market where there's really good bullish opportunity?
It's actually starting to get a feel as a stock picker's market. You know, with some of the great fear kind of petering out this last week, you're starting to see separation where there can be good bullish and bearish picks, and that's perfect for step system methodology. I want to know on this Friday fun day, what is the amount of time that the three of us will call each other an idiot when we veto another person's pick in our meeting? Over under. How many violent words will be said?
It's not a fair bet now, because if I set an over, you're just going to want to break the over. So, I mean, now you've biased the bet, but I'm saying it's a lot. Let's just say a lot. But no, we're usually
less than the stars of the Golden State Warriors tearing their ACL.
Gee, mini Christmas.
I want my point.
I was thinking about that. You know, should we hindsight Trading Justice podcast scoring because Timmy was right?
Okay. All I'm going to say is Tim's biggest argument was on gold. He was wrong.
So no, it's got to break 1,400 to be a breakout. We're not rehashing this. We are not going to do this right now. If you heard the podcast, you remember square off. By the way, the phrase of the day might be stock pickers market. In the chat right now, if you're halftime crew, I want you to put the words stock pickers market. And while you're typing, right after that, give me a quick like and a share. If you're ever new to our channel and you like our shows and you want to be alerted of future shows, click the subscribe button underneath and make sure you click the bell. That way, when we go live, it'll send you a quick notification that we're live on YouTube and you can come and join us. So click subscribe and click the bell next to subscribe. Makes your life a lot easier. There's no doubt about it. You know, Matt, going through the stock market here as well. We're going to talk gold here in a minute, but let's talk about the Dow Jones Industrial. Let's move on to large cap companies. Start taking a look here. I don't see a big discernible difference between the Dow and the S&P. Give me a read on this chart.
There it is.
Yeah.
There's nothing to break down. It's the same chart.
I agree. There are some stocks to break down. Take a look at Dow Chemical, DOW. We brought this one up in the halftime report throughout the week. Sitting on a rising moving average mark, but you got a big strong red candle, 2.5% down. It's got mixed signals there. Is that candle confirmation enough for you, Mark?
I got weird theory on what's going on with chemicals right now. What did basic materials do last week? It like went crazy. I think even though basic materials sector only has 15% of its companies in gold, I think it got like short selling, and think people didn't know that there was 15% in basic materials, which shot basic materials up through the roof when gold was going crazy. And now some of the basic material companies that aren't gold that went up with that ETF are kind of maybe showing a little bit of weakness. Like I've seen that happen with ETFs where people don't know what's exactly going on with an ETF and it gets a little euphoric ahead of its time. But
let's look at some of those, Mark, because I agree with you. I mean, a lot of times when something goes up a lot, it could be a specific area of that sector really kind of driving it. I was looking at financial today, and I'm going through all the different financial stocks, and I'm looking at all those different, components of that sector. And it wasn't the banks and the money center brokers that really kind of stood out to me. It was your insurance companies, it was your credit card companies, it was those types of companies. And you're starting to see sector start to break away as well. When you're looking at the basic materials sector, we're looking at Dow, but take a look at Alcoa here. Alcoa, sitting in a low base type of situation, clean entry underneath 21. When you look at ALB here, okay, nice little bearish retracement, kind of very similar to what Dow was, the Dow chart here, coming smack dab right into an old area of support acting as new resistance. When you're looking at, we talked about Apache earlier. Apache, good little kiss off, and when I mean earlier this week, good little kiss off that support channel. Now it's downward moving in price. Good little trigger there as well. I mean, I can go on and on and on. When you're looking at MPC, nice little bearish flag pattern. So when I was looking at this sector, there's a couple bull picks in this sector as well, but most of this sector was just brought up based on, the euphoria that went into gold last week when it went from 1,300 to 1,350. There's a lot of bearish opportunity in this sector, in my opinion, for next week.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's quite a few stocks throughout that entire area on materials that I think are setting up. Matt, 3M, like you talked about, we've talked about that stock so many times. Dow Component, to me, that's one of the stronger ones on the downside, MMM. Apple Computer playing defense, WBA, but there's a lot of companies down. It's a little bit more bearish, in my opinion, than bullish here on the Dow Jones Industrial. When insurance companies are the best you can find, and it's not a
credit
good
card
sign.
Insurance. Yeah, and it wasn't beyond that. The REITs, looking at the financial sector, when I was looking at the real estate REITs, they were doing really, really good. But you know what wasn't doing good? Medical REITs and hotels. Hotels, the REITs, when I was looking at hotels, like there were 4 REITs that were basically priced in hotels, and they were all getting absolutely slaughtered.
2 more stocks on the Dow I want to talk about, just quick notes on them. Home Depot running again. We nailed this stock throughout the week, Matt. Breakout, running, strength, relative strength on the Dow here this week. And then Microsoft. I just want to make a comment on Microsoft. Just quietly holding $1 trillion. Remember when Apple hit $1 trillion? It was in the newspaper like every dang day. What is it about Microsoft where it just doesn't get the fanfare that these other big names do? The rest
20 years of stagnation.
That ain't stagnation this year.
No, I agree with that, but I think it lost the darling stat. It lost that shiny new object type thing, right? It's just that old, boring, consistent dividend payer, good covered call, good growth. It lost some of that sex appeal to a certain extent. And don't get me wrong, I don't get it. Microsoft's amazing.
Matt,
But
what you just described to me is a sexy company. Consistent, dividend
I know.
paying, covered call. Like to me,
Cody,
that's sexy.
Cody,
Like you're,
it's the company you marry. Okay.
yeah.
You date Tilray, you date Beyond Meat, but this is the company you marry.
If you
Right,
date Tilray, you're going to
So
come
you
home
date-
with more STDs.
Okay, let me put it like this.
You be
Mark
careful
dates
dating
Tilray.
Tilray.
So I'm going to leave a comment I have, but I'll let it go. So you date
Can we
vegan
analyze
potheads? Is that what you said?
Right now, let's
Pets.com or match.com? No,
.com.
no. I got nothing on this one. It's been going up. It's been relatively strong because it's not sensitive to trade war stuff around the globe. And so when the market fades, it goes up. It doesn't really have the weakness in some of the others. Let's move on to the NASDAQ, though. I want to talk some of these big
It
names.
goes up because it owns the entire online dating universe.
Mhm.
Yes.
They dominate.
That is not small business.
Riding that 200 daily SMA mark, is that serving as resistance here? Resistance up at 76.5, because I've got a pivot point back. Give me a technical read on this, guys. I got a
Listen,
pivot point about
I don't
510.
think you can say any given moving average when the entire broad market's flatlining. Just because it's flatlining there, everything's flatlining this week. So, I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that given moving average.
Mhm.
If it was the only thing, let's say the S&P and the Dow were going up and it was flatlining, then I would put a lot of emphasis on it. But that's not, everything's flatlining this week.
Matt,
Yeah,
what do you think?
Moving averages and neutrality don't even need to be on a chart.
Moving average soup, they just kind of come to kind of pinch together and get a little bit noisy and messy. We're going to need a catalyst to break our way out of this one way or the other.
For me, it was the pivot at 7,600 right here.
Mhm.
That's the market got overextended. Everything kind of got overextended in the short term, got into its old pivots. That to me, it wasn't really that 50-day moving average, just happened to so coincide being there.
Yeah. Tech names mid-size or above that are performing real strong, Matt. Beyond Meat, again, hits the top of the list. It's up almost 8% here today.
Crazy.
That downgrade did not slow this company down for long. In fact, it's almost gotten most of it back here already.
I'm not going to trade or touch this company. I don't do that.
Yeah, I would not fight that trend, though. I read the other day, I gave you the stat that something like $500 million has been lost by short sellers trying to fade this company's top here. Do not fight the trend.
Okay, but that's not traders. Come on. No, I don't think hedge funds are doing that. I don't think the pros are doing that. Pros and hedge funds and institutional traders, they are trained to trade in the direction of the
who's doing it? People who their basis of their analysis is, oh, that's gone up too high. It can't go any higher. And you think I'm joking. I've heard people so many times say that can't go any higher.
Oh, and we see it on the downside too. We see it on the downside.
Yep, or
that
lower.
can't go any lower. That can't go. That was
GE. Everyone kept saying, "Oh, it can't go any lower. Buy. It can't go any lower. Buy."
It happens all the time. But again, that's not traders fading that. Not for me. That's not people that are trained, because
It's
the
your
number
cattle
one
ranchers is what it is.
the number one rule of trading is to trade in the direction of the trend. So this trend's bullish. Just because I'm not going to buy it doesn't mean I'm dumb enough to go short it.
No, counter trend trading, something like that, is a recipe for disaster, obviously. Facebook, we're going to talk Facebook. It's up on the top gainers list.
Little sucker.
Little cryptocurrency news on this one, Matt. They're talking about unveiling their plan for cryptocurrency this week or next week, and there's a lot of stuff going on with it. I saw about 50 headlines hit the news on this one here today.
Oh my God. I just want to throw up.
Yeah.
Facebook announces plans for a cryptocurrency.
Well, I remember last year when they were talking about, we cannot support any ads on cryptocurrency. Now they're going to release their own. I wonder if those two things are tied together a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm out on that. I don't even know what to say. It's so stupid.
Yeah,
Just trust the Zuck. I have a 165 put that's going to expire.
I saw the creepiest video the other day that they do this video like imaging over somebody else's body, and they created a press conference with a fake Zuck talking about Facebook, and it looked like the real Zuck. It was terrifying. I can't remember what the technology was called, but it's real scary where we're heading in this world. There's no doubt about that to me. Facebook obviously grabbing our attention up there at the top. Other companies that are showing me strength, Comcast. I do not like buying Comcast. I do not trade
At what
Comcast.
point is Facebook going to create a CBD-infused cryptocurrency to manage their algorithms? Just announce it. Just announce it. That's all you got to do.
Just put everything together.
Facebook up 10% overnight. This is the world we live in. Insanity. It's insanity. Facebook, because crypto, it's up 2%. Because they say the word crypto, it's up 2%. Lord Almighty.
And breaking the technical chart. I mean, that's not just a random 2%. That actually, it was a perfect pivot point. Without the news, confirmation down below this today would have been completely tradable. There's no question about it. So this one kind of throws it into question a little bit, but it's a gap out and then nothing. It's not like it has any carry through on the intraday here.
No, it's going to stop out all the tops and come right back down. You can see it right now.
That's where the moving average comes into effect. Where did it stop to near on the penny?
Mm-hmm.
Like that lets me know that there wasn't real. I mean, this was after hours traders driving it up, stopped on the penny on the intraday on that 200, on that rising 200. So Facebook's a mess right now. There's so much news like coming out. It's crazy right now.
Stock to trade.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy.
Either way, it's a real tough stock to trade.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I was doing some day trading this morning and ended up playing a little bit of Netflix here today. Give me a look at Netflix. I'm watching this stock really close. I've been bringing it up more this week than in weeks before because it was more neutral recently, and now it's starting to show me bearishness, Matt. Played a little defense down here about 337 on the intraday, but I'm looking at a support point being pressured while the rest of the market has performed well. Netflix has underperformed, and we'll be talking about this one in the SRP meeting, whether it comes through or not. I'm sure we'll debate it. Give me a read on Netflix.
I'll veto it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's real tough trigger, real tough stop loss.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to get a little taste of what the meeting is? Tim proposes, hey, should we do bearish on Netflix? Why the hell do you want to do that? It has ran down 5 straight days. I
don't mind a rundown into a breakdown, by the way. That doesn't bother me.
I do a lot.
I do.
Especially if this market's at a high point, the market rolls over, a big stock like Netflix.
That's fine. Let me give you a couple other companies. In the tech space, would you rather short Netflix or Box?
Box.
Netflix.
Okay. Would you rather set Netflix or Com?
Netflix.
Why do you want to? Okay,
what stubborn. I mean, that's a clean break.
It's got a pivot down there 15 back in January, I think, or whenever it hit the low.
You have support levels at like every 5-point increment on Netflix.
Yeah.
Would you rather short Netflix or FTNT?
Fortinet. I'd rather short Fortinet. Okay. For sure.
Netflix or Die Daddy Die.
GoDaddy's a good play. Yeah.
Okay. Die Daddy Die.
That's pretty.
I can show you another 20 charts. I just don't. I get it. You have this infinity for Netflix and I get it. I see it, but it's just such a tough trigger. I mean, you got to pivot right here, T. You got to pivot right there. You got to. I mean, it's just tough on the way down, and it's a stock that everybody trades.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it from a fundamental perspective. I mean, you've got head and shoulders reversal characteristics in there. It's a mess. There's like 5 different M's. It's been murdered 5 times and held up, which I guess is a relatively strong thing. But that also means
support is held too, though, bro.
Yeah, but as the market's at a high point, it's at a low point. That's not a good sign. Relative weakness.
Listen, I think the probability is down from here.
Yeah,
I agree with the probability assessment. I'm just saying when you're looking at this space in tech and you got 30 stocks that are setting up, I don't think I would pick the one stock that everybody trades and the one stock that can be really news driven.
And the news driven, I think, Matt, just because I was trying to
control that risk. I mean, through spreads, you can literally just spread it and take the risk out of any kind of randomness and just play a delta.
You can't take total risk out though.
Oh, you can't take total risk out of any play. It's all probabilities, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm just take Facebook for example.
I give this point to Matt.
Thank you. I win again.
Because you're not short Netflix. You're the worst judge on the planet, by the way. You literally just judge based on your own bias.
He does have confirmation bias.
Yeah. You ever want to know what Mark is trading? Just whatever he judged the point for, that's his position.
It's a joke.
There's a lot of bearish ones like Weibo, Matt. I'll give you. I understand the point. Netflix is not the only company. I'm just seeing some weakness in that stock. Weibo sitting here on a low base, break below 40 is going to be great. It is a stock picker's market, like we talked about. You know, one of the beauties of the scouting report meeting is that, guys, the only picks that hit our final report are the ones that everybody agrees on. You know, we have pure veto process, Matt.
The conversation that just happened is going to happen over a 3-hour period later today, and it's a little more colorful language, I will say.
You know, it's our scouting report meeting in which, hey, and if you want those scouting report picks, 15-day free trial, sign up now. Tackle Trading. You know, email me at team@tackle-trading, and I will get you 17 days free trial if you email me at team@tackle-trading. Our scouting report meeting is fascinating psychology. It's like you have 10 dictators that literally all 9 people can agree, and one dictator. It's like the UN. What is that? United Nations Security Council.
Mm-hmm.
Russia, China. Anybody can come in and veto, and it doesn't matter.
If we're going to do the UN Security Council analogy, who's Russia?
Oh, I so want to be China.
Only if China loves moving averages and likes going against everybody else.
Of course, they're so smart.
Okay, you're China. You're China.
I want to be China.
All right, who's Britain? Tim's got to be Britain.
I could see that.
Tim's Britain. Yeah. Who's France?
I'll tell you who's. No, Christian is Switzerland because he doesn't take anybody's side. He
Switzerland doesn't get the G7.
Yeah.
They're not on the Security Council.
Yeah. I mean, give him France then. They kind of just, yeah.
I like Noah for France.
I could see Noah being France. Oh, yeah. I could see that.
I like Noah for France.
Yeah. Noah's got that sarcastic wit, little, you know. Oh, yeah. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Japan? Consistent old Japan. Christian's consistent. Oh, Frank. Frank's Japan.
Breakout Frank.
Frank might be the U.S. because he just shoots everything in the market.
That is true. Yeah. Frank usually puts in the most picks.
If Canada was there, Tim would be Canada. Very polite.
Cheers.
Very polite.
And right there to fight in every global war with their allies.
That's right.
You bet.
That's right.
That's exactly right. If you want to call me Canada, I will take that, and I will wear that with a badge of honor.
Just won the NBA championship, buddy.
In fact, I'm going to find some poutine for lunch, cheese fries and gravy. There's no doubt about it. Move on to the RTY if you would. And if I had a good Canadian accent, I'd do that. I'm going to have to bring on Coach Greg. How is Coach Greg not Canada, by the way? If you're going to give it somebody. I get it. RTY in the middle, Matt. I don't see anything here. You know, what's interesting is those old pivots did not play as resistance point at all. And so now you're back up above that. I know you have lower, high, lower, low, lower, high, lower, low. But within that violation, though, don't you have to move it into slightly a little bit more towards the neutral mark?
We don't rank the Russell. We rank the S&P and all the S&P 500 sectors. But if I had to rank the Russell right now, I'd probably be 30 to 35 on the bear side.
Listen, all I know is every iron condor trader is happy right now.
Yeah.
That rally over the last 8 days saved everybody on their bull put side. So I know they are all happy. Give us a double like, which you can't do, but you know, in your heart, if you got saved on an iron condor trade for those options that expire next Friday.
Yeah. By the way, they're saying
a lot of you did.
They're saying in the chat that Mark's more Australia. Yeah.
I'd like to. Australia.
Vegemite is the worst tasting stuff on the planet.
I've heard that actually.
But Tim Tams, if you ever get a hold of a Tim Tam, it's this little chocolate cookie that's very popular down in Australia. Those things are heaven.
I have a student who sent me some Australian licorice, and I don't like licorice. It was the best licorice I've ever had, by far. It's amazing.
All right, moving on to the dollar and then commodities. Then we're going to talk about how we rank all our sectors and whatnot, Matt. And I want to make sure we get through that today. We're having fun on a Friday. Fun day. Markets are flat, but it doesn't really matter. If you're a trader, there's always something to do, quite frankly. If you can't find things to trade, you really haven't been trained on enough what's happening out there. Theta, delta, gamma, vega, there's always a system to trade. Dollar's rallying here, Matt. Back up above the old pivot, back up above moving average. Very, very strong candlestick here. Give me a read on the US dollar, if you would.
Obviously a tremendous amount of strength right here. And what kind of really led to the upward movement in was the retail sales number that came out earlier today. Retail sales came in at 0.5 versus the expectation of 0.5 on core. It came in at 0.5 versus the expectation of 0.7. So the first thing I'm going to say is I don't have a clue why the dollar's up.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I know what the headline is going to say.
Makes no sense.
Dollars up on strong retail. No. They missed the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
They missed the expectation. And so when you're looking at this, I was a little surprised when I woke up and I saw the retail sales numbers. And then I'm looking at the dollar and I'm like, wow, here's right here, guys, 6:30 my time. What happened at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time? Well, that's when the retail sales numbers came out. And I don't understand this movement, but I don't.
Short sellers covering.
It's got to be something like that.
It's got to be short sellers covering because they made a lot of money over the last couple of weeks, and people.
Yeah, it's got to be, Mark, because that's what makes type of parabolic move on a negative economic report. Very rarely do you see that in currency.
I got another theory.
You see that in the S&P. You see that in the S&P, but you don't see that in the dollar.
30-year bond, 10-year bond, 5-year bond, and they're all up here today. Yields are down. In fact, basis point on the most traded bond in the world, Matt, the 10-year bond is down 3 basis points. Could it just be they're chasing yield, moving away from bonds into, because yields are down here today.
You can't tell me they're chasing yield when literally the movement happens on the very second the retail sales numbers come out. That's algorithm trading and then short covering after it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's strong. It's going to throw rankings into a pretty complex thing here. Obviously, 97.5 was resistance.
I mean, it's going to be ranked at 50 is what it's going to be ranked at.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, crude oil. Let's go through the commodities next. Keep working through our market skyline as we do each and every time we do our halftime report. Crude light, kind of fading into the weekend here, Mark. We've had a lot of news this week on crude oil. I'm sure it's going to be the focus, one of the focus of your commodity report. Crude and gold tend to be 1A, 1B in every week in commodities. Yep.
Before you and Mark get into the crude, it also could have been a little bit of hangover from last night's negative Chinese report as well.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't follow the Chinese economic reports, industrial production came in at the lowest level in the last 17 years in China, guys. That is a very, very worrisome for the slowing global type argument. And we know safe havens. Safe havens are dollars, yens, Swiss franc. So there could have been a little bit of carryover from that, but I still think it's retail sales.
Listen, as the UN representative of China, let me just tell you, we are manipulating our reports to the down to give the US and Trump a false sense of confidence that they feel like they got us where they want us.
Mark is China.
Mark is China.
Yeah. He would peg his currency system.
Yeah, I would guarantee you.
I'd manipulate the hell out of it all.
You'd be like, hold my beer, watch this, guys.
Oh, I get to decide what the economic data says? Oh, I'd have some fun with that.
Mark's China. Debate over.
Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. Crude light, Mark, it's a tough one for a lot of other traders out there. I know the news has been crazy, back and forth, back and forth. It was down big. Then it came back after those tankers got bombed. We're still in a downtrend below all MAs, sitting above 50 on support. I know you have a bias on crude, so that's going to affect your opinion a little bit. What's your read on crude, though?
Well, I mean, there's my girlfriend slapping it down twice over the last this week. Came up to my girlfriend twice, slapped it right down. That is a sign of weakness. My girlfriend, the 9 EMA, I mean, you look how she did when it was uptrending. Every time it came down in March, slap it back up. Just, get away. And look what price did following that. When things are moving, when there's real momentum, those short-term moving averages, that's when they're at their best. And the fact that she slapped her away twice this week, immediately too, not even messing around, real sign of weakness for oil right now. Real sign of weakness for oil. You got another support level, a break of that support level, and go to a weekly chart too. There's also a key moving average at play on the weekly chart on crude, and you have continuous moving averages on your chart. Can you drop that?
What do you want?
Just the close, the daily price action, because it's a little. There's for crude oil. There's two different charts that are at play, and it's a whole long, complicated discussion. But you got, because crude trades throughout the trading day, and then you have charts that just show the U.S. exchange hours, and there can be some variation there. But let me share my chart. Oh, never. Anyways, I don't have it's bouncing off a key support level on the weekly level. Needless to say, long story short, that support level breaks. There's a lot of downside pressure. The pressure in the short term is on the downside from a technical perspective. There's no doubt about that. That's 100% clear. Falling moving averages, support level, that breaks. You're going to see another leg down.
I agree with that.
I read a report yesterday from I can't remember if it was CNBC, Market Watch. I can't remember where I read it, but basically it was some Wall Street bankers' analysis on crude oil, and the whole report was this: if A happens, then crude can go here. If B happens, crude can go here. If A equals B, then C, it can go here. And at the end of the analysis, the projection was anywhere from $40 to $80, with the higher end approaching $100.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks, because he's always right.
It was like, I read the article, I'm like, holy.
He's like, see, this is what happened, and I'm right.
It was insane just reading that level of analysis. I posted on Twitter, I'm like, I can't believe people actually listen to this type of stuff. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'll tell you, with Mark though, if we break below these support levels, I see a lot of downside for crude. That's a big if though, because support is support for a reason. A lot of action next week. Give me gold real quick here, Matt, and let's keep working through commodities if we can. And the gold contract broke out a little bit here this morning, and then it's fading back. Intraday action is not good for gold. In fact, a little pivot there just before we started the halftime report. Yeah, but then it did not hold the pivot here even just a half an hour ago. While we're in the middle of this halftime report, it's broken down even a little bit further. Give me a read on this chart here, Matt.
It's the same read on the dollar. I mean, literally broke out here on the Chinese news overnight. Here's 6:30 in the morning right here. That's when the retail sales numbers came out. Dollar up, gold down. It's really that simple. When you're looking at this is where it becomes very frustrating as a trader, though, because it makes the trigger very hard. So what I'm looking at here on gold is give me a close above 1350. Give me a close above 1350, and then we can start talking about where to put that trigger. But I would not aggressively enter into gold anywhere above 1350.
Gold is difficult to trade sometimes because of the long wicks that are produced on gold. I love this pullback. I just sold another put, because while I don't have a great technical read other than the massive resistance level, I love the fundamentals of gold. Here is, I love fundamentals of gold again. Anytime I see weakness, I sell another put and hope to get put at a lower price. Gold's amazing right now. What, you think the dollar's just going to rally? I mean, does anyone think the dollar's just going to rally to infinity? Like right now with lowering. No, of course not. It is a insane fundamental backdrop. Position trade gold. Find a cash flow strategy on gold. When it breaks that resistance level for good, trade gold. But until then, find some cash flow strategy on gold that can take advantage.
Honestly, I can see a lot of scenarios where the dollar comes right back down next week and you basically see gold go right back up. I mean, this was a technical, high frequency driven movement on both gold and on the dollar. It wasn't hedge funds, institutions, traders. That was all done by algorithms. And so when you're talking about the Fed coming out next week, and the most likely scenario with the Fed next week is they're going to remove the being patient language. That's the most likely scenario. And if they don't remove that patient language, that signifies they're not dropping in July. But I do believe they're going to remove the patient language from the equation next week. that's going to go a little bit more dovish, and then that basically signals that we're going to have a July cut is basically what that signals. So there's going to be a lot of volatility in both these charts over the next week, in my opinion. And, you know, people that are, you know, a little risk adverse, or maybe don't understand the intraday analysis versus the daily analysis, I'd probably stay away from the dollar and gold for the next week. Let the volatility smooth out.
Hey Matt, you've seen the Hunger Games, right?
Yeah.
You know that scene where they all come up on the platforms and they said don't try to go for the weapons at the very beginning. It's a bloodbath, and half of them just ran away and half of them went for the weapons.
Yeah.
This is going to be that scene. That Fed announcement is going to be that. You're either going to try to win the bloodbath, or you can just stay out of it and survive.
Listen, I've always said, you know, we're as traders, it's like we're watching a battle take place between buyers and sellers, bulls and bears, supply and demand, however you want to categorize that. And we're a sniper sitting up on the ledge, and we don't have any loyalty to any party fighting that battle. We want to see who's going to win the battle, and then we want to join the winning side. And when this battle is being fought right now and it's really being fought between algorithms, right? Let's let that play out. Let's wait for the volatility to subside, and then we can have a better, proper analysis on this, because this is very volatile right now, guys. And honestly, economically, I don't understand it. And a lot of times when I don't understand an economic move in the dollar, I want to give it a little bit more time to see a little bit more reports come out, to see the volatility subside before I want to take any aggressive action.
Watch my 9 active support. No, see how the 9 slapped it up once again.
It's coming. It's coming.
Have a pullback.
When did your girlfriend become abusive?
Yeah, it's interesting how you describe it, how she flaps the chart around a little bit, Mark. Is there something you're not telling us here? Just going to leave that out.
Must be dating beyond.
Trump's Twitter account's abusive.
Oh, goodness. All right. Bitcoin, real quick, Matt, last peek at one of these charts. I got a few stocks I want to look at the end of the show, but Bitcoin is holding.
I also talk about assassinate the stock. So I'm with you, Mark.
That's right. Bitcoin's showing some resolve. It's gotten back to all of that red candle. Yeah.
I'm just going to make snide remarks when we're looking at Bitcoin right now. I'm already out. Once you said Facebook and crypto, I'm like, that's so stupid.
Yeah, I gotcha. And last thing I want to do here today, Matt, we got about 10 minutes. I want to talk about our scouting report meeting. You know, the big focus at Tackle Trading on Fridays. And guys, you know, we know Fridays are for the summertime, hitting the beach, going golfing. A lot of traders are already gone for the weekend, by the way. What we do is we bird dog. In fact, put in hashtag bird dog in the chat. And if you are Team Tackle, you know exactly what that is. We bird dog and we go out there and we put all the coaches to work, Matt, and we actually go out and find a lot of candidates, a lot of picks to fill out all of our scouting reports that get published on a Saturday. Kind of set this up. You know, we want to talk about this today, kind of walk the team through this.
I just wanted to have an open conversation about, you know, how we all go about kind of looking at the sectors and how we go about, you know, analyzing the stocks to put on the list, and just to kind of show you guys here, kind of the process here. What's today's date?
6/14/2019. Yep.
So basically 6/14, and then we'll say, okay, Matt Justice here, right? And then we click next. And then what happens every single Friday is all the coaches, the bird dogs, the Tackle Trading, we're going to basically rank all the different instruments. We're going to rank the S&P, the dollar, all the different sectors, everything like that. Then we're going to, if you click next here, then we're going to rank all the different commodities based on trend patterns, support, resistance. And then once we get done ranking that, then we rank all the currencies. And what that does is we basically compile and we average out all the rankings of the different coaches, ranking all the different instruments from commodities to currencies to sector relationship. And basically we start putting out our scoreboards for our, you know, currency report, our commodity report, as well as our stock report. And if you look at the stock report, just to kind of show you how it works here, and I'm logging into Tackle, so just give me 1 second here. But when you look at, let's say okay, come on, there we go. And then what happens is in our Tackle newsletter, Cody's going to, you know, update everybody on kind of the sectors and so on and so forth. And so if I come down here, you can kind of see it right there. And then we average all those rankings out. We put them on our scoreboards to kind of let you know if something got upgraded, if something got downgraded, where the average rankings of all the different coaches were. And we do that from a sector, from a commodity, and from a currency perspective. And then after we rank all the different sectors, what the coaches do between now and the close on, so about 2.5 hours from now, what all the coaches are going to do is they're going to come and they're going to start adding all their picks. And as you can see, they've already started doing it. Mark came in earlier this morning, started adding all his picks, bull and bear. Here's Coach Noah adding all his picks that he's looking at. Here's me adding all my picks that I want to look at here. Here's Tim starting to add all his picks. And as you can see, the purple ones, that just typically means that multiple different coaches added the pick together. And then what we do is basically we analyze this as a team together, each one of these picks from a variety of different standpoints. And so in the scatter report meeting, we'll analyze every stock from a yes or no perspective, and that's the veto process. And so if I'm looking at, say, let me just take one of Noah's random picks here. Now, NOW, right? So he has a pick, NOW bull pick. All right, so NOW. So here on NOW, each coach is going to look at NOW, and typically speaking, if it's of approval, nobody will say anything, and we'll just move on fairly quickly. But if you're looking at NOW right here, would you guys approve this pick?
I'd veto.
I would veto.
I'd veto it.
Yeah,
I see the breakout up above 280.
Oh, absolutely. It's a hard trigger, though.
It's not the breakouts. The fact that I've already looked at 1,200 other stocks, and I'm comparing that against a lot of the other things I've already seen, and you're $7 away from the breakout channel on an ATR that's about $8. So you're within an ATR in that. I do like the trigger above 280, but it doesn't mean it's a bad setup. That's not it at all. It just means that we might not, like it against everything else we're looking at. And every single coach at Tackle Trading has the ability to come in and veto that. And that's where it really kind of gets funny.
Yeah, I would veto it because the ticker symbol is just making me feel pressure on this Friday that I don't.
see, and that's great logic, Mark. I love the logic there. But that's basically the process. But what I want to talk about, guys, is how you personally go about finding the stocks that you want to add to that scouting report meeting for all of us coaches to analyze, and how you go about analyzing the sectors to determine where you're going to rank the sector. So let's start with Tim here. Tim, what is your preparation about how to go about say ranking basic materials here? How would you go about ranking it?
I'm probably one of the only coaches that starts with bottom-up analysis, and I actually go and right. Some other coaches do maybe. But for my process, I actually look at the components of XLB individually, and I start looking at the largest cap companies first, because many of these individual ETFs and sectors, if leadership in that space has news or takes off or trends, it can actually shape the entire sector. Okay. And this is only on the weekend. Every other day of the week, when I'm doing my daily routine, Matt, I start at the top of the markets. But on the weekend, I start at the bottom of the markets and work backwards a little bit just to kind of force my brain to see things differently. I don't want confirmation bias from the first chart. So I then go into the individual components of XLB and I say, okay, where's the leadership? Where's the weakness? Is it neutral? What's happening? Are there earnings coming out? What are the economic reports and events? And then there is an SOP that we operate from, standard operating procedure. If you know what that is, I follow it to a T. When I finally get down to this sector analysis, I start with the short-term trend, okay? Because this is not a long-term year-over-year analysis of materials. I'm bullish on healthcare for the next 10 years, but it doesn't mean every week I'm going to be bullish on healthcare. I'm going to be bullish or bearish depending on how the market comes in and down. And then I'm going to look at my ranking from the last week, because I don't want to change radically from week to week. If last week I had a 45, this week I shouldn't have a -10 unless, something completely once in a lifetime happened, right? So I'm going to use that as a baseline to try to shape my thinking and make sure I'm not moving too radically one way or the other. I put the totality of it together. I look at MAs, I look at support, resistance, and patterns and candles and volume, everything you're going to do with the chart then. And then I give it a final yard marker rating, Matt. And I do it sector by sector. And I do all the sectors, by the way, before I give my S&P rating. I do all sectors and then I'll rank the S&P.
See, I actually do it a little different than that. I first start by bottom-up analysis by going through, literally, I look at every stock in the Dow, every stock in the NASDAQ, every stock in the S&P 500 from a sector perspective. I start with the bottom-up approach to really get an understanding, okay, what stocks are driving that sector, kind of like what Mark was talking with materials just earlier today, where his analysis led to a lot of those gold stocks bringing up the entire material sector last week. So I start with the bottom-up approach. But once I get that bottom-up approach done, then I actually look at the S&P 500 and I rank the S&P 500. And the reason I rank the S&P 500 is I do a lot of cross-comparison analysis within the sector against the actual S&P 500. And so if I rank the S&P 500, say at 25, and I have basic materials, underperforming that sector, underperforming that, or outperforming, it doesn't matter. That's kind of my line, that marginal line I draw, and then I rank it from the right to the left against the S&P 500 is kind of my approach to the market. And I look at trends, I look at patterns, I look at momentum, I look at where the market is in relationship to support and resistance. For example, you can't deny basic materials has had a very good last couple of weeks in the market. We're talking a sector that's up 10% literally in the last 2 weeks. But you're overextended, and if all you did was look at that, it's up 10% in the last 2 weeks, you'd be like, oh, bullish, 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 bullish. But there's context to that, right? And when you're looking at this being overextended, slowing its momentum right here at 58, 58 and a half, right where it hit its head last time before it started a really, really big downward movement, that's that context that I give. So even though it might be outperforming the S&P in this recovery, I'm seeing it hitting its head, its strong hit at resistance. And then when I broke that down from a bottom-up approach, Tim, I had a lot of stocks overextended that I thought were going to be good bullish retracements, but that means the sector comes down. But when I was looking at breaking down the entire material sector, I had twice as many bearish picks as I did bullish picks, because a lot of the stocks that were in bearish downtrends are now coming back up into resistance, and I expect them to come back down in price. So I would actually be left of the S&P 500 given the totality of the analysis. Mark, how about yourself? How do you go about breaking down you're finding your stocks or going through your sector analysis?
I only base them on a weekly chart. So you go to a weekly chart for me. And I think out of all of the coaches, base things on a little bit longer of a time frame on my ranking.
You do.
So go to XLU, for example. I'm consistently one of the highest ranking people on XLU, because I don't give a shit what it is doing this week on the day-to-day price. Mm-hmm. Every pullback on SLU, I'm a buyer on. Real life, I buy. And so I look at a little bit longer trend, especially since 2019. And I look at weekly candlesticks. So when I go to XLU, I see an insanely strong trend. And so I'm basing that off the last 4 or 5 months of price action. Now, go to XLB, which we were just analyzing. I look at the trend here. Yes, the short-term price movement is strong. Nice bump up last week. But when I look at the trend, I'm like, yeah, I don't see the same things that I do in XLU. And so I think I use the longest. But the nice thing about all of our individual approaches, whether it's bottom up or longer term time frame or the detailed, is that collective thought, and it is my belief, and I really believe this. We had Slavic on the Traders Lounge today. We had Noah yesterday. We had Gino on Monday. We have so many different coaches, and we all have our preferences, what 15, 20 years of trading has taught each of us, and that collectiveness coming together, I think, makes tackle trading different than any other community out there on the internet. I think there is a uniqueness to each of us, and that collective wisdom that comes together, I think, produces some pretty good analysis on our scouting reports over the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reality is we all miss things, and we all have our own subjective bias to ours, right? I mean, we all have our approach that we go with the marketplace. And what I love about all the coaches coming together and using their own analysis to kind of rank them, it averages it out and it covers where sometimes we have we have these blind spots as traders because we have a lot of experience and we rely on that experience, but that experience isn't 100% the same for Tim versus, Cody versus Mark versus Tim. Cody, how do you go about it? You're one of the younger members of the coach over there, Tax Rating, and you've been ranking and putting in picks now for how long? About 6 months now?
About 6 months now. Yeah.
6 months now? How do you go about it? Because you're also one of the more vocal members of that.
Oh yeah, that is true. I'll
young people these days.
Hey,
it's always about 3 comments of Mark beating Cody down with something like that. But go ahead, Cody.
No, I definitely respect all the coaches up there, but I mean, when I see a pattern, I'll say I veto it for this reason, and then usually there'll be another coach be like, "Oh yeah, I see that too." It's like, "Oh okay, well then I'm not the only one who's speaking up here." Anyways, so what I actually usually do is I try to keep track of all of our older scouting reports, and I'll start there and I'll say, okay, was there something that's set up in the past that didn't trigger or is possibly setting up again? Because a lot of times you'll get these trending stocks, your things like your Planet Fitness or, things that are just consistently going up, back down, and you can just get that good bullish retracement. So I'll actually start with those watch lists and I'll run through those and see if I find anything. And then from there, it's just a simple FinViz scan depending on what type of setup I'm thinking is going to lead the market. If I'm seeing a lot of high base breakouts, then I'll start looking for those. Yeah. So it starts with picks that we've already seen, because if they're consistent, they're going to continue to be consistent. So I start there.
How do you guys go about adding your selections to the actual scanner report document?
Yeah, I'm old school. I keep a physical manual journal, and
here's mine. I'm old school. There's my picks. There's my picks in basic materials, consumer goods, financial. Here's my picks in healthcare, industrial, and services. Here's my picks that's my prep. Here's my picks in tech. And that's what it adds up to here. I still write down everything, Tim.
Hey, I got to give my brothers an update. They just barely created something called Excel.
Mark, if you're going to give, out of all of us, if you're going to criticize.
I know, I find this ironic because I'm a technologist.
I still write things down. I write down.
We move them into sheets.
There's my notebook, by the way. We're all our father's sons.
We're all our father's sons, but then we put them into these reports and we analyze them, right?
Well, I don't put everything in there that I put on my piece of paper. So my first list on the piece of paper is usually bigger, and then I'll go into my charts in Thinkorswim and actually do some cross time frame analysis before I filter them.
Oh, you're far kinder than I am.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah, I do a second filter before I submit, but yeah. And then let me ask
a class real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Halftime crew. Would you guys like me to record one of these, cut it up, so that you can see kind of how everything is made?
I actually had just answered a question in the chat by William about that. They asked if they recorded it. I said, we've never recorded it for pro members, but we have invited some.
First of all, I'm going to swear as much as I can. I am so well behaved in our normal shows. But on that Friday meeting, go watch Wolf of Wall Street and you're going to see what my language looks behind this, because that's how I talk.
Okay, I'm going to tell you guys right now, if I do it, and this is my hesitation, okay? When we are in that meeting, it is professionals talking to professionals. That's number one. And if anybody's been in a professional environment, sometimes there is colorful language, and sometimes it's done for sarcasm, sometimes it's done for humor, and sometimes it's done for emphasis. But it's not PG-13, Patricia. So if you get offended by some foul language, that is not the meeting you want to watch.
Because I really do. I try to be respectful. I really, really do. Like in the lounges, you'll never hear me. You'll hear me swear on YouTube because it brings it out a little bit.
Literally just four.
I know, but not really. Like
really, not really.
It's a swear word.
That's swear.
We'll have to bring in. You ever heard of George Carlin? He defined which words. I think it is one of those 7 dirty words.
It's one of those 7.
By definition, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a fun time. It's a heated time. There's I love, I've really come to appreciate it when there's no students there because I get to say what I want.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of stopped adding students to the live one, is what I felt like the realness of the coaches kind of took a step back. Like they kind of went into business mode. They kind of went into teaching mode, because when we're teaching a live situation like this, a live environment like this, we do have our teaching hat on. You know what I mean? We have that. Okay, we have certain filters we don't go to, but when we're in that meeting, there's no filters. And that's what I want. I want that uncensored. I want that realness. I want the coaches to really kind of be free in that environment, to speak their mind, because a lot of times we disagree with one another, and I don't want people to be like, oh, the coaches, they disagree, and they're, no, I want that environment in that meeting, because it's our jobs to produce the best reports for our community. And having that unfiltered, uncensored environment allows us to do that. We can be real in that environment, and I really, really like that. So I think I'll record it and post it to the pro members either this week or next week, probably, or 3 weeks from now. I don't know when I'll do it, but I will do one in the next 3 weeks, guys, to show you how the sauce is made. And just as a disclaimer here, there will be language.
Yeah.
And Marie, it was. I saw it too, Marie. I've been in those scout report meetings for a year now, and I know when the coaches are being filtered, and I know when they're going into teaching mode, and I know when they're not. And every time we've ever had students there, I just don't feel like everybody felt comfortable enough to give their level of analysis. And so it's, maybe on the recorded it's going to be a little different, but we'll test it.
Is that the thing Tim is wearing, a teaching hat or a weird mushroom? Gino, I've wore this hat for years. It's just a hat, my friend. I get it. When you got a ponytail, it's hard to wear hats the way that my laid-back Southern California friend can. But is this a teaching hat, Matt? I had a student once tell me that this is like my look, and I never intended that.
Beautiful hat.
I love this hat.
Can I use my Friday language meeting?
No, you cannot. No.
Apparently, teaching hats are what Tim's got on, a Yankees hat, and then a tuna boat thing that Mark's got on.
Who knows what Mark has on? He's going into Sunshine.
Dude, I'm going fishing for.
That's what I'm saying. You look like you belong on Deadliest Catch.
That's right. I do. I'll own that. I'll own that.
I think it's a wonderful hat, too.
Now let's wrap this thing up. A couple IPOs
before you go, I want to propose one thing. All right, I'm getting back, and with more and more coaches, we're adding a tackle trading. I'm getting back to my true love. Before I started tackle trading, all I did was spend about 2 years analyzing commodities. I love the commodity, and I want to I think commodities are amazing. Starting this week, we are going to make the commodities report option and stock picks in the world of commodities. So all of your oil companies, your agriculture chemicals, steel, gold. So if we have an option or a stock play, just like the options in the stock report in the world of commodities, we're going to put that on the commodities report, and we're going to analyze it. So some of them will be options. If they're not liquid, they'll be stock, but we'll break down those option and stock picks, and we're going to start having more of them on the commodities reports, just like we do options, just like stock. So if you're looking for this weekend oil option or oil stock picks, you're going to find them on the commodity report this weekend. Put them over there. Well, I love commodities.
Mark, Blake makes a wonderful point here. I want to trade corn. Well, guys, you can trade every commodity in the stock market through ETFs, so you can trade them through the futures market. And there's an important concept called intermarket analysis, and it's been vitally important for the last 35 years, 40 years. And yet what we've seen in our data is the vast majority of our students will watch the options report. A lower percentage will watch the stock report, a lower percentage will watch the commodity report, and a lower percentage will watch the Forex report. But I think that's a big mistake. I think it's a very big mistake because of intermarket analysis. Having the ability to understand how these markets relate to one another is very important. Guys, the scatter reports aren't just there for just to go get some picks and generate some ideas. It's also to learn as well. And so what I would recommend to everybody is to watch the Forex report, watch the commodity report. Even if you don't trade those, it helps you with other forms of analysis in the stocks and the options market. And so what we're going to be doing from now on is we're going to be putting those basic material picks that used to be in the stock and the options report, some of the, you know, energy picks that used to be in the stock and the options report, anything related to commodities in the stock market will be in the commodity report from now on. And I think that's going to, I think you guys are going to like it, because it's going to help you understand commodities in general, but also the way we trade commodities in the stock market. It's not just futures anymore.
No, Matt, I'm going to lobby you for three things, because I mean, standard commodities are pretty standard. You know, oil, gold, lots of those. We're going to have lots of picks on those. I want three things in my commodity. I want marijuana stocks.
No, we'll debate that.
All right. I want Micron, because that thing's traded like a commodity.
How are you going to get Micron in a commodity report? Come on.
Because all it is
tech
based
stock.
on, the price of Micron is only based on.
I know you love Micron, but that's a no.
And I want online dating, because love is a commodity.
Oh my God.
Love is a commodity. Match.com needs to go to the commodity report, because love is.
I already gave you.
We would have to read.
I already gave you every basic material. I gave you all the energy stocks. I'm not giving you tech and Match.com.
I don't want tech. I want Micron. I want Match.com.
He doesn't just want commodities. He wants anything that he trades. He's I want the analysis on anything I trade.
Yep, he wants the Chuck report.
I do want the report.
Yeah.
I want the deadliest catch report.
No.
So Mark acts like a grump, but he just tried to make 3 jokes there. 2 of them landed. I liked it. Mark, it is Friday Fun Day. We can all have some fun here on a Friday. Sex
what jokes did I make? I have no idea.
Match.com is not a commodity. Okay?
Love is a commodity.
It doesn't matter. It's a technology.
All right. I'm closing up this shop real quick. Guys, thank you so much for being a part of Tackle Train, the best part of Tackle Train. If you love Tackle Train, give us a like and a share. Get ready for those scanner reports coming out on Saturday for the pro members. You guys are amazing. And to all the fathers out there, a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to my two brothers, Mark and Tim. You guys are amazing fathers. To all the other fathers out there, you guys are amazing as well. We love you guys. Let's go out there and do our jobs. We're going to go out there to get ready for the scouting reports, guys. Check out those scouting reports tomorrow, because they're going to be amazing. That's your job, is to prepare for the market each week, and that starts with the scouting reports. We'll see you back here on Monday. Good job, guys. See you on Monday.